Wanted to take a quick moment to introduce our speaker. And right after me, you're going to see a video, and then you'll hear the voice of the speaker. Mike Farris is president and CEO and general counsel of Alliance Defending Freedom. I love these guys. As a second CEO of ADF, he brings the role of a diverse background as an effective litigator, educator, public advocate, and communicator, and is widely recognized for his successful work on the national and international stage. Farris has specialized in constitutional appellate litigation. In that capacity, he has argued before the appellate courts of 13 states, 8 federal courts of appeal, and the U.S. Supreme Court, where in 2018 he successfully argued NIFLA versus Becra, resulting in a free speech victory for California's pro-life pregnancy centers. That was a phenomenal victory. And we got to give him a shout out for that one. I'll say this as the video is beginning to play, or about to. Alliance Defending Freedom has been an incredible, impactful organization across this country to work to maintain our freedoms, to maintain our religious liberties. And I loved what he's still there, but the former CEO, Alan Sears, used to tell me, and one of the things, we lose when we don't show up to fight. And Alliance Defending Freedom is about fighting.
I don't think in my wildest dreams I thought the day would come in my ministry where I would have to fight the state.
We received a letter that indicated the city was aware we were worshiping in our building, and if we continued to do that, we would receive a fine of $250 a day.
The way that we are trying to serve our community is being challenged on a daily basis.
We went to the church and we said, we need to decide this together. Are we going to go ahead with a lawsuit with the city of New York?
Alliance Defending Freedom has always had the mission of keeping the legal door open for the spread of the gospel. And the Church Alliance is a program that is intended to provide, and does provide, practical, focused legal help for churches.
The Church Alliance focuses on what are the means that we need to take to ensure that churches continue to have the right to speak the gospel.
If ADF had not come alongside to help us, I don't know what we would have done.
It's going to let most pastors sleep well at night and feel like, hey, when those issues come along, I don't have to put my head in the sand. I can speak up and say something about it, and we can go do something about it because Church Alliance will be there to help us.
It is a privilege to be with you all this afternoon. I have worked for a lot of years with Star Parker. Star and I are best friends for years and years and years, at least 20 years since we were in high school together, right? Or something like that. Well, wait a second, I have grandchildren that are 19, well, okay, for a long time. I am a walking violation of separation of church and state in the ACLU's view, because not only am I a lawyer and argue cases in the Supreme Court and other places, I'm a pastor also. And because I'm a pastor, I am very, very, very grateful for what all of you do, because shepherding God's people is the highest calling that anybody could have. Anyone who is called to minister the word of God to people day in and day out has my encouragement, my sympathy, my empathy. I never intended to actually pastor a church. I was ordained into a teaching ministry, but I ended up pastoring twice for a total of 3 years. Started a church, and we grew and got to the point where we could hire somebody. I was just volunteering. We went from 22 people to about 150. And then a few years later, I was brought back when the church was about 180, and we went to about 350 when I was there for another 22 months. And I said after that, every Christian man ought to have to be a pastor for at least a couple years. It'd serve them all right. And you know that I know what I'm talking about when I say that, right? Okay? And so we at Alliance Defending Freedom, when I took the helm about 18 months ago, I came with a concern of the attack that's coming to the church. There is an attack coming on the church, and it takes many facets, but it starts with, or at least the spearhead of that attack right now, is the attack of the LGBT community upon those of us who stay by what the Word of God says on that subject. A group in Ohio has said every church in Ohio that refuses to do same-sex weddings, they're going to be sued by this particular group. There's a case in Iowa right now, or a case we won in Iowa, where the State Civil Rights Commission said that if the church would not allow transgender persons to use the opposite sex bathrooms that they wanted to use to violate the privacy of the church members, that they were going to be in trouble with that organization. We sued we sued the state before they could enforce that policy, and we won that on a ruling that the church was exempt from the jurisdiction of the state on that matter. You see the attack on the church and the atheist group that's coming across against the Ministerial Alliance, a case that's ongoing in the Seventh Circuit right now. We are representing in an amicus capacity about 9,000 pastors that have joined together and say, no, this is an attack upon freedom, not just an attack upon the church, it's an attack upon everyone's freedom. We have won cases in the Supreme Court of the United States as ADF. The Trinity Lutheran Church case that was decided a year ago in June, where the state of Missouri said, because you're a church, you can't participate in the program for playground safety because, of course, church kids don't need playground safety. It's only secular kids. No, that's nonsense. And we had applied, the church that we represented had applied for this program, met every criteria, was ranked 5th among all the preschools in the state. 15 got funded that year, but we were excluded simply because we were a church. The Supreme Court of the United States, 7-2, said that kind of discrimination against religious people and religious organization is odious to the American Constitution. I love that word, odious. It is a great description of what was going on. Activists are coming after the church. Now, for 30 plus years, I represented homeschoolers. And we had an organization that's much like the Church Alliance, where it's called Homeschool Legal Defense Association. You could join for a very nominal amount of money, and if they came after one of us, we all showed up to fight. And some people call it insurance. It's not insurance because insurance companies never represent people that aren't members. And we represented people that aren't members all the time. And ADF will represent people that aren't members. But we need members to be the backbone of the organization. We think it's like a union. You touch one of us, the whole union of churches shows up to fight. And that's what we were about. Now, ADF has been representing churches in test case litigation for a long time. The organization has just turned 25 years old. And we've represented churches day in and day out for those 25 years. But we do test case litigation in our regular cases, which means we can't take every case that comes along because there's not the expertise, there's not the funding, there's not the mechanism. The Church Alliance project that you were shown the video of is a mechanism to create the network and the funding sources so that everybody, any church that's a member, doesn't matter whether it's a test case or not. If you touch one of our members, we're coming to fight. And the memberships are designed to be, for the small churches, it's $250 a year. So we're not asking for, you can't get an attorney to change his mind for $250, much less do much else. You ask him to walk to the elevator, there's $250. And so the Church Alliance is designed to review your documents, not for, to see if you got the deacons and elders, allocated correctly, but to make sure that in any issue that reflects on religious freedom, that you've done it correctly. So that it doesn't mean that you won't get into a fight. It just means you got a better chance of winning once you do get into a fight. And so we want to make sure that your paperwork is in order. We do all that for no extra charge for our members. And we are there because we believe the body of Christ needs to stand together. And we've got information for you, I trust and hope, here at this conference. I ran in from a board meeting to talk to you today. But I just want to talk to you more. That's all I'm going to say about the Church Alliance. I want to talk to you about freedom in this country in general for just a few minutes. Because ADF argued the two most important cases, I believe, last term in the Supreme Court of the United States. We argued the Masterpiece Cake Shop case, and we argued the NIFLA case. The Masterpiece Cake Shop case was about whether or not the government of Colorado could force a Christian cake artist who just happened to be a homeschool dad, a Christian cake artist, to create a same-sex wedding cake. He would serve these people any day of the week. He doesn't have any problem with people. You know, if they wanted a birthday cake, no problem. They wanted a football cake, no problem. They wanted a Thanksgiving cake, no problem. They wanted to buy the cookies or brownies, no problem. He'll serve people all day long, but he won't create all messages. He has a conviction against Halloween, so I didn't say if they wanted a Halloween cake, no problem, because he doesn't make Halloween cakes for anybody, because that's not something he feels like in his own conscience he can celebrate. And we've done Halloween a bit over the years, not all that much, but I understand that conviction, and I would defend that conviction to the death. He doesn't make same-sex wedding cakes because he believes that marriage is between a man and a woman. If the Supreme Court wants to get it wrong, that's okay with him. You know, that's not his problem. His problem is he's not going to join in the celebration, and he has the right to not join in the celebration. And so we won that case in the Supreme Court of the United States 7-2 last year. And the state of Colorado's come after him again for a transgender cake. Now, it's just remarkable how stupid they are. In the wedding cake case, we had an argument where there was a lot of dispute about whether free speech is protected by a message. And there's a question about whether or not there was a message involved in the wedding cake. The second one that they're coming after us is a transgender reveal cake, where it's blue on the outside and pink on the inside. What's the point of the cake? Is to reveal a message that this person who was created by God to be a man has decided he thinks he can change that and he's going to be a woman. That's what his cake, it reveals a message. There is absolutely no doubt that that cake is a message cake. And so Jack has refused to do that in the state of Colorado, despite losing once. And we're not going to simply play in their administrative process, which is not stacked fairly at all, but is designed. It's not a full trial. It's not full discovery. We've sued the state of Colorado's administrative agency in federal court. We're going to have a real trial in a real court, and they're in for a real battle, and we're going to take it to them and get them to stop this once and for all. The NIFLA case that I argued in the Supreme Court in March was about whether California could force pro-life pregnancy centers to put a sign on their wall that said, if you want a free or low-cost abortion, please call this 800 number. What nonsense. You know, the Got Milk signs, those are paid for by the government of California. They know how to advertise. It's the milk board of the state of California that does those ads. Those are really clever ads. So California knows how to promote things that it wants to promote. But it does not need to coerce people. And they weren't trying to promote anything. They knew that people of conscience would not do it and that they would use this as a means of shutting them down. Why did they want to shut them down? Because 8 out of 10 times when a woman walks into one of these facilities, the baby's saved. The baby is saved. They don't want babies to be saved. They're not about choice. They're about death. Because if they're objecting to a woman walking in and changing her mind, they're objecting to the fact that the woman is chosen life. And that's not supporting freedom of choice. That's nonsense. They are not about that. They are about promoting their abortion industry because it makes a lot of money for their donors. That's what they want. That's what they're all about. Shame on them for taking blood money to advance a political agenda rather than being concerned about people. If they are concerned about people, they'd be acting like those pro-life pregnancy centers are. They're there, if the woman chooses abortion, they're there to deal with her after the fact and help her through that. If the woman chooses life, they're there to help her. They're there to help her regardless. Now, they're encouraging her to make the right choice, but they're there to help her regardless of what choice she makes. California doesn't take that position. California takes the opposite. All of us here know the biggest truth in the world, and that is the truth that Jesus Christ came to save people like you and me, sinners. And because of that, we've got a message of hope. We've got a message of hope for everybody because the biggest issue that everybody faces every day and when they come to the end of their life, whatever day that is, whether that's prematurely or by the world standards or whether that's after living 90 or 95 years, you have to decide whether or not, what have you done with Jesus in your life? Now, we do other things as well along the way, but our central focus is to advance the freedom to see the gospel is open. We know that if we're going to keep the doors open for the gospel, we got to say that free speech is for everybody, not just people we agree with. Free speech is for everybody, because otherwise they'll shut us down because they don't like our speech. So we say free speech is everybody, but our motivation for saying that free speech is everybody ultimately is we want to keep the doors open for the gospel. But we fight for freedom. We fight for freedom that people we agree with. We fight for freedom for people we don't agree with, because freedom is for everybody, or it's not freedom at all. It's privileges for a few once it starts being freedom for somebody and not everybody. We are about promoting freedom for everybody. We encourage you to stand with us. We encourage you in what you do. And if you ever need help, you call Alliance Defending Freedom. And if it's about religious freedom, if it's about a church, if it's about a slip and fall on your sidewalk, you go talk to your insurance company. But if it's about the ability to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, if it's about the ability to maintain your autonomy as a church, if it's about the IRS coming to get you because they don't like what you said in the pulpit, if anything in that zone, you give us a call. We're going to come to your aid, because that's what we're here for, because that's what you're there for. You're there to serve Jesus and to serve people. And we give you the highest possible accolades and our undying commitment that we will be there for you day in, day out. God bless you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today.